loops. So let's go to a new file, and I'm going to type in hash include stdio.h. I'm going to write int main, and I'm going to have so let me call it 4.cc. Okay, now you have 4.cc, and you want to basically write a for loop. Okay. First thing, so let me say what's one question I want to do. Let's say I want to do to print, find the sum of elements in the, okay, sum of integers in the array. Okay, so you have an integer array, and you want to find the sum of all the integers there. So let me call it 1 2 3 4 5. So what is the sum of numbers from 1 to 5? Yeah, n into n plus 1 by 2. So 5 into 5 plus 1, 6 by 2, 3, 15. Is it? Yeah, so you can see it's 15. So 5 plus 1 is 6, 4 plus 2 is 6, 6 plus 6 is 12, plus 3 is 15. So it's 5 n into n plus 1 by 2, and I want to basically print using the for loop. And now what is the syntax of the for loop? The for loop syntax is the following. I have to write for I is equal to 0. So you have to starting index is 0. I have to put a semicolon, and I have to write I is less than 5 here. Okay, and I'm going to write I plus plus. I will tell you what this is happening. Okay, first and I'm going to write sum is equal to sum plus array of I. Okay, I'll first write everything, and then I will explain. Okay, so two more things to add. I have to write initially sum is 0, and then I have to define what is I. So I have to say that I is an integer. Okay, now let me try to explain what is happening here, and I can print it. So sum is equal to %d, sum. Okay, so I have now the entire program here, and I will explain what is happening here. Okay, so I have an array AR here, which we know, and I have defined an integer, and initial sum is equal to 0. Now I need to traverse through the entire array, and this is what I'm going to do. This part, I equal to 0, is basically setting the initial index to be 0. Okay, I first set the initial index to be 0, so that is the initialization of this for loop happens before the first semicolon, the initialization. The next thing is a conditional statement, which is saying the for loop is going to be executed as long as this statement is true. So that's the next thing. Okay, as long as this for loop is true, as long as this condition is true, this for loop will execute. So this loop will execute for 0 1 2 3 4. Let's print it out, right? We can print it out and see /n value of I is equal to %d comma I. So /n here. Okay, so as long as I is less than 5, this for loop is executed. And then you have I plus plus, which is basically incrementing. This is something you have seen, which is I is incremented once. Okay, I can replace it by I equal to I plus 1 also. Okay, it's basically saying I is incremented, so that is 1. I'm incrementing I by 1, and now you can see. Now let me see what happens. GCC 4.cc. What happened? I didn't put the semicolon. So I added ./a.out. Right. So let me add a /n also here. Anyway, so you can see value of I is equal to 0. So when you enter here, value of I is 0. I is equal to 1. Then it became 1. Then it became 2. Then it became 3. Then it became 4. And it next time it goes here, I is less than I becomes 5, and then it does not. So first time it enters, it is initialized to 0, comes down here, goes back, checks I is I less than 5, it is less than 5, goes back here. Okay, sorry, I is equal to 0, it comes here, goes back, I is incremented, I is equal to I plus 1, I becomes 1, is I less than 5, yes, I is less than 5, so it goes here, goes back to the for loop and increments again, I become 2, is I less than 5, yes, goes back, I is incremented, I becomes 3, 3 is less than 5, yes, again comes inside, goes back, I is incremented 4, I less than 5, yes, goes back, I incremented again, I becomes 5, is 5 less than 5, no, exits, come out. Okay, once that condition is false, it comes out, it comes here. Okay, is that clear? Now, so let me run this again and show you. So if you want, we can find out, we can also print the value of sum, value of I, and partial sum we can print, which is basically the sum till that point, and we can have that. And so I know it took some time, but yeah, so the value of I is 0, partial sum is 1 because the array element is 1, I is equal to 1, partial sum is 3, 2 plus 1 is 3, I equal to 2, partial sum 3 plus 3 becomes 6, etc, etc, and the final sum is 15. It's clear, right? So this is how it comes. Now some cases. So what happens if I had I becomes, what will happen if I just put something here which is never going to be true? I mean, it's always going to be true. Let's say I is less than 5, or I is greater than or equal to 5. This is basically all cases, right? So I'm going to put some brackets. You have to put proper brackets because otherwise it gets. If I do this, what will happen? Okay. To show that I'm going to do the following. I'm going to comment this because now as you could, what could happen go wrong is, what could happen now, what is going to happen now, this condition is always going to be true, right? Because I is either less than 5 or I is going to be greater than 5. Now if I run it, it's going to keep running. So I will stop as soon as you notice that it's going to run forever. I just compile and it's started running. See, I became some very big number, etc. So I keeps on running, it never stops. So you have to be careful here with what you write here, because this condition ensures that it comes out. Okay, as soon as it is violated, it comes out. So I'm going to go back to I less than 5. Now I am back. So I can just again, I will compile, I run, sorry, ./a.out, run, yeah. So I've gone back. Now next thing, what happens if I write something which is false? Let's go, I put I is less than 0. So initially I become 0 and I have written I is less than 0. Okay, so will it go inside? So let's do that. Okay, I compiled, I run. Okay, it never went inside. That's the main first point. That's another point, important point to notice. Once I is equal to 0, so first this condition is set, this value is set to I, then this condition is checked, is I less than 0, false, that condition is false, it comes out of the for loop, point number 1, right? It comes out the for loops and start executing here. On the other hand, if it was 1, what would have happened? It would have run for once and printed 1 value. Okay, because it initially it goes here, I is set to 1, oh okay, I is set to 0, 0 less than 1, it's correct, and then it goes here and comes back, and I becomes 2, and no, it's I is 0 here, I is 0 is less than 1, it's correct, and come inside and then goes back, and then I is set to 1, and it comes here and checks 1 less than 1, false, goes out. Clear, good. This is good. Now let me go back to 5 because 5 is the length. I can do the following. I'm going to do some more things which let's just play around with this. What happened if I had made it 2? I is equal to I plus 2. Check this thing out. Okay, so initial value of I is 0, it comes inside, because initial value is I is set to 0, I less than 5. Is it true? It's true. It goes inside, it comes back, and then I is equal to I plus 2, so I becomes 2, right? As you could see, I becomes 2 here, and its sum becomes 4. Why is it 4? Because only first time the value of I, the array of I is 1, and then now this time array, the array value is 3, and 3 plus 1 4, so that's why its partial sum is 4. It goes back again, the partial sum becomes 4 plus I is 2 right now. It goes back, and then I is equal to I plus 2, it becomes 4, and then it goes inside, it increments 4 with 5 and becomes 9. Okay, sum is 9. That's important thing. So you could write anything here. You could have written I plus 3 or even I into 2, for example. What happens if I put I is equal to I into 10? Okay. How many times do you expect it to run? Just once. What is gone wrong here? Do you know what has gone wrong? Okay, so initially I is set to 0, it comes inside, right? So value of I is equal to 0, it comes inside, it goes back, and I is set to I into 10. What is 0 into 10? It's still 0, right? So I is still 0, and is I less than 5. 0 is obviously less than 5, so it's going to be inside this, and so it's 0, and multiplication makes it retains 0, so I'm going to add a plus 1 there, and now you can see what happens. I is equal to 0, it comes inside. I is equal to 0, it checks is I less than 5, it's true, comes inside, goes back here, 0 into 10, 0 plus 1, 1, I is equal to 1. Is 1 less than 5? It is, it comes inside, goes back here. 1 into 10 plus 1 becomes 11, I becomes 11. Is 11 less than 5? No, it goes out. So 2 times we were inside the for loop. Good. And then you have computed sum of the first and the third and the 0th entry, and the first entry 1 plus 2 becomes 3, partial sum is 3. Good, that's good. So now we know how to play around with this. Let's go back to I is equal to I plus 1, and if we go back, we know this is the answer. Now there's a shorthand for I is equal to I plus 1. This is something which we wrote earlier, and this is I plus plus. You can write I plus plus. That's a shorthand for I is equal to I plus 1, and it works exactly as I is equal to I plus 1. Good. So this is the usual shorthand notation being used. Now good. So now finally one more thing. Let me just remove this line. Now there's just one line inside it, right? So this is something which we saw in the if conditional. So if there is only one line of command in a for loop, I just don't have to write the open and close braces. I could have just written these like this. So the sum is 15 comes out. Okay, so it works without open and close braces if there's only one command. I could have placed it here also. See, run it from there. Yeah, it works. So but now if I want it back, okay, I just brought it back. Right. Now good. Now this is I have this back. Okay, now okay, so since I have this, let me now make it into a function. I'm going to copy this for loop into a function. I'm going to build a function which sums up which basically returns the sum of integers in the array. Okay, so I'm going to return an integer. So int sum of an array, int array. Okay, how do I write an array? I have to put this bracket, int array, and then I'm going to do the same thing in that function. I'm going to I'll I'll print it there also. I'm going to, okay. I use this tab, but note that this tab is not, this is best practice. It's not compulsory for C, but that's a good writing style. So use that. Since you know Python, so Python indentation, these are all good writing styles. Maintain the indentation standards just like Python forced you to do. So those are good standards. So just keep that. Now I have I'm going to use this thing and I'm going to return some, right? How do I so let me have, I'm going to print that printf inside some function. Okay, so I'm going to now print this. I'm going to print, I'm just going to call some function using here. Okay, I'm going to pass the array to the sum function, and it's going to work exactly like earlier. Okay, so something wrong. What is wrong? This I, this for loop does not know what is this I, right? This is something which is defined here. It's not defined there. You have to define it in that function, this variable. So we didn't do that. Now okay, so it's worked exactly as earlier. Okay, now so now you have this. Okay, so next thing, what's the next thing to do? You have, okay, so now we have we have called this function sum function, and the sum function has now prints the sum of all sum of the integers in the array, right? I'm going to now go to the next thing, next block thing called as while. Okay, so just like for, I can use while. Okay, so while is written as with a condition. So I'm going to use a while to again print the sum of numbers, and the sum should be the same. So how do I use while? Again, I'm going to create an int I. Note that I should define the integer before I call any function. So that's why I wrote it above. I'm going to initialize the integer to 0, and I'm going to say while I is less than 5. Okay, I'm going to do the following. So I'm going to have a sum here, int sum, and I set sum also to 0. While I is less than 5, I'm going to do this something here, sum is equal to array I. So sum is being printed, and I'm going to, okay, I'll have this also. I'm going to print that, then I'm going to print the final sum here. Okay, so I'm going to be using for function. Okay, and in the end I will write printf /n returning from some function using some function. Okay, just I will return like that, and then I come back here and I will just print that statement here. I'll just printf starting to okay. I'm going to basically just some lot of prints. Okay, so I just told that when I call this function, it will be printed that I'm inside the for loop, and then I come out of it, and then I'm going to say I'm going to sum using the while loop, and they have to match exactly the same. That's the point which I'm trying to make. You could have you might as well used the while loop. Okay, there's something wrong. What is wrong? I didn't put semicolon somewhere here. Yeah. Is it true? No, I am using something is missing. Int type is not a function or okay, somewhere what's it called object type int. Is not a function for function pointer. You know what is the mistake? Okay, let's see. It's saying, see, the sum is an integer. That's what its object type is int, and it's not a function. It's saying, okay, the sum is an integer and it's not a function. What is it? Why is it? Because see, I have defined sum to be an integer here, and then I am calling the function. C program got confused. You just now declared it as an integer, and you have called it as a function. I mean, and then you are saying, okay, call the function sum. This is confusing for the C compiler. After we do this, we will after we finish this while loop, we will the next thing which we will do is we look at these things. Okay, the idea that when you see a variable, where is the C compiler going to look? So the C compiler is right now confused, saying what is this int? Int has been sum, but now it's a function, and so that's confusion. I'm going to make it sum underscore function. I'm going to make it here sum underscore function. This would have created a lot of problems because sum was a function here, and then you have declared it as an integer here. Crazy, right? No one can. I mean, like the C compiler would have gone crazy. So that was my mistake. Okay, so I compiled now. See, something is wrong. What is wrong here? What went wrong here? What is the value of I? You would notice the value of I is 0. The value of I never changed. You are just keeping on adding the 0th entry. So all the time you are adding by 1 and you are just incrementing. Okay. So you could see here. Now, the problem is that you never incremented the value of I. So to do that, you should do that here. You should do right I plus plus here, which increments. You could have written I is equal to I plus 1, but I chose to write I plus plus. That's nice to me, so I just use that. I prefer that. Okay, now good. Notice that the for loop execution is exactly similar to the while loop execution, right? That's what we want. The for loop and the while loop execution should be the same, and that's exactly what we got. That's good. Now I can maybe make it into a maybe I will let me just make it into sum underscore for loop, and I will make here also sum underscore for loop. Now I will make another thing which is basically sum underscore while loop. Okay, and after that I am going to show something called as the do while loop. Okay, that's the next thing. So it goes here. What can go wrong now? Can you tell me? There are a few things which can go wrong. While I do all this print thing, you can just tell me what could go wrong. What could go wrong? Yeah. So these things are not defined, the sum and int. So I'm going to copy that here. I'm going to define that here. Okay. Okay, so sum underscore while loop here. Okay, now that's good. The next thing is the do while loop. Okay, so the do while loop is like this: do, and then you should end it with saying while I is less than 5, and you type in the same thing. I just copy that, all these things there, just there. Okay, I just copy the entire thing there, and I should have sum and I is equal to 0 in the beginning. Printf inside no, summing using do while loop. Okay, value of 5, and then finally I should have this print the sum. Okay, now this is now using do while loop. So let's see what happens, and again it should be the same exactly as again something is missing. What did I do wrong? Sum for loop is something. This one is not. Did you mean sum for loop? I wrote to so something. Okay, warning control reach no. Okay, so there's no return somewhere. This is it's saying it's an integer return, but it never returns something. Okay, so I just returned that the warning is done. I compiled again. I run. See, it's exactly like we want. Okay, the do while loop is exactly like we want. Okay, now now let me add the next. I want to add one more thing. I want to add. I don't want to sum the entire list of array, but I want to sum only up to certain point. So that point I'm going to create using another integer sum up to some index. Okay, which is right now set to 5. Okay. So let me have it sum up to 5. So it will, the sum is going to be done only from 0 to 5 minus 1, 4. Okay, that's what I want to do. So in that case, so that's exactly like the output should be exactly like what we prefer, because the current array size is also 5. So I'm going to pass this thing, and each of the function will also have to should take this also as a parameter, and only sum up to that. So how do I do that? I just add that also here, sum up to here, and rather than I less than 5, I write sum up to here, again int sum up to there. I want to add sum up to there, quote. Okay, and I can also do it here, right? I'm going to add do sum up to here. Okay, everything should run exactly as we saw now. Yeah. Okay, but now let me reduce the sum up to, let me make it only the first 2 numbers. I do it. Okay, so everywhere I got exactly 2 numbers. Okay, so something somewhere I didn't put a slash in. Okay, so okay, right. Okay, so This is also working good, right? I reduce even further. What should you get? You should get 1, right? The first element, sum up to only the first element, right? Because you are going to sum up to only. Now comes the next thing. I'm going to put it 0. What do you expect here? So sum up to is 0 here. What do you expect here? Right? I is equal to 0 and I is less than 0. It's false. So therefore it won't go inside this. It will just print 0 and come out. This never gets executed. So for loop never gets executed. While loop, what happens? I is equal to 0 while I is less than 0. Okay, and sum up to is also 0. So while 0 is less than 0, again false. So it's also supposed to come out. And what happens to the do while loop? That's the difference, right? So both inside for loop sum is 0. No runoff or no partial sum. Again inside while loop, no partial sum. Inside do while loop, there is one partial sum. That's the interesting thing which we will now see. I'm going to just make it better. Okay, let me just run this thing. Okay, notice this. I'm going to make one more thing. I'll leave a separator right after every function. I'm going to leave one more line of free thing so that we can see what is happening. Yeah. So it's just for some clear understanding. Okay. Initially it was inside for loop. Sum is 0, no partial sum. Inside while loop, no partial sum. Inside summing using do while loop, value is equal to 1. There's a partial sum is 1. So what happened? As you could see in the while loop, when I is 1 is less than 0, first this condition is checked and then it is decided whether to go inside, right? When condition is false, you just go out. In the do while loop, first the condition is not checked. First it runs the code block inside and then the condition is checked. That's a crucial difference. Okay, first is checked, first the program runs and then the condition is checked. That's a crucial difference you need to understand, and that's why it runs the partial sum. That's one crucial difference between while and do while. And with this we have seen all kinds of loops. We go to the next thing.